Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome once again to NOLA Theatre Talk. My name is Alan Smason, and thank you all for being here. We are being seen on the NOLA Theatre Folk Facebook group, on the YouTube channel that I have that you can check out there just by looking at my name if you want, or on the theatrecriticism.com Facebook page, which of course you do not have to be a member of, but the NOLA Theatre Folk Facebook group is a private group, but you can join just by asking. No big deal. Tonight, as it were, we are actually having a good opportunity to talk about the latest JPAS production that's going to be happening on stage at the Jefferson Performing Arts Center on Airline Drive, 6400 Airline Drive to be exact. And we have the director, who's going to be coming on right now, which is a familiar voice and face to many of us. And that, of course, is Leslie Castay. Leslie, welcome to the show. How are you?
Hello. Good evening. How are you?
It seems to me the last time you might have been on this particular platform, you were taking part in Rising Water, were you not?
I did.
Yeah.
Carl Palmer and I read Sean Bigonet's play during the pandemic, the height of the pandemic. So that was my first shot of actually doing live, pandemic Zoom theater. But it was luckily a two-hander, right? So everything was mirror image. We were trying to look at each other, but we were looking the other way. And it was a great adventure.
I really enjoyed it. And that was the very first time that John allowed us to do the first of his trilogy, his three plays. And it was just so wonderful to be able to see actors acting and being able to have other people join in and be able to have the experience of being in a darkened theater almost.
It was a balm to us, believe me, to just read words and to tell stories again after sitting on the sofa and watching them on Netflix. It was great.
So now, first off, you have directed before, but you were directing, I know a lot of times you were directing at Southern Rep. You did the Mandatory Merriment. And of course, at Tulane, you've directed a number of things. I think you did a Rocky Horror. Is that possible? Yep. And a couple of other things there. So you're an old hand at directing, as it were. But how did you learn about the possibility of doing Irving Berlin's White Christmas and all the other songs that are associated with Holiday Inn? I mean, how did all that happen?
Yeah, well, I had directed the first time for JPAS last season, and I directed Addams Family, which was great fun, but also under great duress because the JPAC sustained lots of damage during Hurricane Ida. So we were bumped from that theater, and I was rehearsing, and Dennis and I were discussing, do we postpone? Do we cancel? What do we do? And a week would go by and we'd say, well, I don't know still. We might be able to get in the theater. So it's on and then it's off and it's on, it's then off. So we were able to assemble most of our original cast. Literally, we were supposed to go into rehearsal the day after Hurricane Ida. Last season.
And you all went back to a familiar haunt for JPAS, where they've been for so many years, East Jefferson High School's auditorium.
Which was great because I'm convinced that space is haunted. So it was a perfect space for Addams Family. I mean, I don't think anybody had said backstage, except for school assemblies at EJ, since JPAS left and went to the JPAC. So it was a little dusty, but we dusted it off and we fit the sets in. It's not a fly house, and the show had been, designed with flies in mind. So things came on this way and things came on that way. I lovingly refer to it as a shower curtain production because
very true.
It was great, but my cast was stellar.
Oh no! You had Callie Russell and you had Christopher Bentavenia.
It was great.
And
Enrico
Canella, right? Canella.
Yeah. I mean, my cast was just all-star. They were wonderful.
Super. And of course, everybody remembers him from perhaps the Hunchback of Notre Dame, but he's got a great voice, and he took on the role of Gomez Adams.
Fit like a glove. It was
and Callie was Morticia. And you had Christopher as Uncle Fester.
Uncle Fester. And don't forget Janet Shea as Grandma.
Yep. So you had
I had her coming up and down stairs.
It was really a great cast. And so your directing debut for JPAS certainly was even though it was marked by some challenges, I think you pulled it off very well. It was a very, very wonderful production. I'm sorry to say that so much has happened with the Big Easy Awards that we weren't able to have awards presented, but I certainly think that production merited at least a couple of awards for if not your directing, for perhaps, some
Yeah,
of
it
the
was a
acting that was on
real
there.
audience favorite. We had
Yeah.
some great
Yeah.
performances. And then this season with Holiday Inn, Dennis asked me to come and do it, which is great because, my background is tap dancing musicals. I made my Broadway debut on Broadway and 42nd Street. So I'm a tapper from way on back. I'm not a tap choreographer, however. So I was thrilled. I understand the tone and those kind of musicals so well. It's just like breathing to me. And I you sort of, these rhythms are sort of built in, when you get these shows that use all the great old fashioned songs, and the plots is lovers who keep trying to get together and also trying to find home. So it was comfortable for me to accept, doing this show. I was super excited because it's a beautiful show, but it's also daunting. It's a huge, huge, difficult show. Many set changes, many production numbers. I mean, every song seems to be a production number.
And there's a lot of songs in this show. Now, I have to say, now,
Yeah.
again, I made the mistake. I already corrected it now, but there was the movie Holiday Inn, which is what this is based on. And then several years later, one of the top movies in, I think, 1946 was White Christmas. Now, both of them had Bing Crosby, right?
Yes.
So that's why people get confused, like me. And I'm thinking the color version, of course, is White Christmas with Danny Kaye, and I think it was Vera Ellen
and Rosemary Clooney.
Yeah. But this is not that picture. This is the picture that was done with Fred Astaire and Bing Crosby and Rosemary.
Not Rosemary. Marjorie Dale.
Marjorie Reynolds.
Yes.
And by the way, she didn't even sing her own stuff in the movie. As you know, in movies, somebody can move their lips, but they're not necessarily singing. And so there was a lady by the name of Martha Mears who actually dubbed her voice. So I found that out by doing some research. But just an amazing movie, black and white. And actually, although it was maybe not as popular a movie, it was popular in its own right. It had a lot of pretty good songs in it as well, many of which made it into the musical that was done a few years ago, and I got to see the original on Broadway. But they added a lot of other songs, like I'm trying to think, like Blue Skies, wasn't that?
Blue Skies
in that
as
well. So Blue Skies, they've added a few other things that were not in the original movie. The idea of the original movie, if I'm not mistaken, I know we're going to have the star coming in just a second, but the idea is that somehow or other Bing Crosby ends up inheriting this small inn, and he decides to go away from, I guess, show business, where he's a writer, songwriter, whatever, and he's going to create a place where people can come and stay. And of course, each holiday is where they're going to be coming in. So, obviously White Christmas goes for the Christmas season. Right. And he's got other songs that go with, let's say, Independence Day and New Year's Eve and things like Valentine's. So, Be Careful With My Heart, I think was in that film.
Yes.
And again, some of these songs were Irving Berlin standards, and they were brought back for the film. But White Christmas was debuted in the 1942 Holiday Inn, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So that's where it came from. And until the lovely Mariah Carey took over, I think last year, Bing Crosby's White Christmas was the most popular Christmas song of all time.
Yeah.
And now I think that because of her streaming and the downloads, etc., that Mariah is now the queen.
Mariah passed up old Bing. Oh, yeah. Maybe
all right. Let's
we can remedy that in New Orleans.
Before I get into some of the pictures and stuff like that, let's bring in our star. We've been making him wait just a little bit too long. I'd like to bring in Rich Arnold, and Rich, the character you play is who?
Hello. Yes.
Hi,
can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Good. The character I play, his name is Jim. He is actually probably the most similar character to myself that I've ever played, and which makes it just a whole lot of fun. But I also need to remind myself that I'm not him. I've had one of my co-stars, the great Tracy Collins, who's a good friend of mine, and she plays my friend in the show. I told her at one point, I was like, you know what? I don't like that Jim says this. I don't like, I would never say that. She's like, you're not saying it. Your character is saying it. I'm like, oh yeah, that's okay, important.
Acting, yes.
Yeah, so Jim is he's an affable, likable young man. He's a performer in New York, and he gets disillusioned with the life of a performer in New York, which is similar to my background. And he decides that he buys a farm in Connecticut, and his dream is to live there and enjoy what he calls the simple things in life. But part of his dream is to enjoy it with his fiancée, who is played by Bailey Gabrish. The character's name is Lila. And then, but by the time he moves pretty soon into the show, everything crumbles around him. And literally, actually, the house starts to fall apart, and he finds out he owes a whole bunch of back taxes. And then, worst of all, he gets his heart broken because he finds out that his dream is not shared by his fiancée, that she still wants to be in New York. And so he's in despair. And so the rest of my show is about resilience, turning the corner, dealing with problems that arise, but then also finding ultimately love and fulfillment and staying true to your convictions and your dreams.
Yeah, I do think I love that the story, the book was a new book written for the Broadway stage, and it debuted. And my dogs are going crazy right now because my doorbell just rang. I think a delivery man dropped off something.
Yeah.
But anyway, the book is updated, and it really reflects people, making pivots in their life at a certain point in their career, wanting something different and stepping back. And I think all those themes really resonate after the pandemic, where so many people did. And I know, Rich, I don't want to speak privately, but I know you kind of in your own life made a little pivot these days. And
yes, that's why I really do relate to the character, because I was also disillusioned with my life in New York, and I had a lot of great opportunities there, but touring the world, cruising the world, and I toured the country, played the singer, but ultimately I was like, there's only so much satisfaction I could get out of doing 42nd Street for a year of my life, and I really wasn't getting the kind of roles that I wanted to sink my teeth into, and so I moved here, and I really found my passion doing nonprofit work in the community. But I also found out Jim has a line in the show which I like. He says, maybe it's true that you still need a little bit of performing in your life to live a normal life. And that's what I found as well, that I still need that element to performing. And I kind of feel like now I have the best of both worlds, where I found like a new passion, but then I still have the ability to play great roles like this.
And of course, I mean, I thought you were spectacular as Jorg in She Loves Me. It seems like you had played Jorg as well in The Sound of Music.
Right. That was the last time I was on stage, actually, at JPass 2 years ago in Sound of Music.
So that's the name. That's the name that was connected with you for a year there. That was
right.
I'll play Jorg. So
yeah.
Now the other thing is, a lot of people may remember, you were responsible for the Big Easy Boys.
Yes, and I'm still doing that, and that's actually part of the reason why. So I was with Covenant House. That was my job for 10 years, and I left my job in the spring.
I'm sorry to hear that, because I know how much dedication you had for that group.
I'll always support the organization. It's an amazing cause. In fact, I'm still sleeping out on Thursday. That's their big event. But after our rehearsal. But yeah, so part of the reason why I stepped away was for the Big Easy Boys, because we're working on a brand new show that's dedicated to the legacy of New Orleans music. And so we're doing a brand new act that's going to feature all the music of the greats, Frogman Henry and Alan Toussaint and Dr. John. The list goes on. So I'm excited.
Well, that sounds great.
Yeah,
I want to know about it, because that's my cup of tea. I love it.
Yeah. So you'll hear more about that soon.
Speaking of tea, I brought my this is actually amaretto. So I have a little sweetness into the show tonight. This is
sweet.
Kosher. In my house, I have to have kosher libation. So, not only do I have to have something to drink, but it's got to be kosher to begin with. Okay. So I know, Leslie, you had said you brought something a little bit less potent, right?
Not so exciting tonight. Sorry.
Well, I have to have my...
What is today, Monday? It's a Monday night. So when I was on Broadway, Monday was my day off. But
true.
Now that I'm not on Broadway anymore, Monday is Diet Coke night.
And Rich, what did you say you had?
Well, I have a lot of songs, a lot of singing in the show, so I've got water in the cup. But it is a Crew of Carrollton cup, and I'm here in the neighborhood of Carrollton. So
I understand. I actually was present at the Crew of Carrollton's coronation ball, and they revealed the king on the night of the LSU Alabama game. And I should point out the fact that the king coming up is from Alabama, and he was not happy about becoming king, but not happy about the outcome of the game. And we'll leave it at that. So let's get into a little bit more about Irving Berlin's Holiday Inn. A lot of songs, a lot of dancing. Now, Leslie, is this more dancing than Addams Family?
Oh, by a factor of tenfold. Yeah.
I knew the answer, but I wanted to ask it anyway.
My partner in crime is Kenny Beck, who is a fabulous choreographer and teacher in New Orleans. And he has worked as both a director and choreographer for JPES for many, many years. So I have him as my choreographer. So never fear. And, I always thought of Kenny as more of a ballet guy, but he's got the tap moves, right? I mean, the things he has the cast doing are very challenging, and they're stepping up and they're doing it. And there's even a big show-stopping number where as they're decorating the farmhouse for Christmas, they pull out tinsel and it becomes a jump rope. And so there's tap dancing and jump roping at the same time.
Right.
So,
I'm going to maybe give a little sneak peek at the Broadway show a little bit later on in the show. I want to showcase the local talent first before we talk about what the overall scheme, because right now we're in the rehearsal stage, and this show doesn't open till really December. But there's a lot of reasons we wanted to kind of promote it now, because with Thanksgiving coming up and a lot of opportunities are going to be missed between now and then, and we want to be able to do it. Here's a couple of the rehearsals. I'm not sure exactly what particular song number this is.
That is actually the opening number, Stepping Out with My Baby. So that is the play opens with a number that Rich's character Jim, and then his co-host Ted, played by Alcee Jones. They are the headliners in this act, and those dancers that you see are their intro dancers. So it's this cute little tap number.
Are you in that number too, Rich, at the very beginning?
Yes. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
And the dancers you see are all really, really great. So many of these dancers were, I think, recruited by Kenny Beck and do ballet with him, and they're extraordinarily good. Eli, the one in the middle, I did Sound of Music with 2 years ago. On the first day of rehearsal, I didn't even recognize him. I was wondering who this kid was, because he's grown about like 3 feet since then.
Yeah.
So he was one of the Von Trapp children?
Yes.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
And now this is almost balletic in the way that they've got that.
Yeah.
That's from the Cheek to Cheek number. So yes, it's very romantic. It's very Fred and Ginger style.
And that's Kenny in the back. Is it in the background? Isn't that Kenny in the background?
That's Kenny in the background.
Yeah, all the way. He looks on, but you can just see him in the mirror there. He's right there.
Yeah.
Right back there. And then finally you had there's Kenny again in the background, and that's that same number of dancing cheek to cheek.
Oh yeah, she's getting her. Yeah, that's Julia Crescenzi. I think she's new to New Orleans and just a very talented singer, dancer, actress, and being supported by Jordan Maggio, who is a phenomenal dancer. All
right, so let's take a little bit of time out. I want to show a little bit of a video. Now, this was, I believe, Brandon was responsible for this. I'm not quite sure what he does, but Amy from JPAS wanted to make sure that we got this in. So it's a short little clip, a little bit of some of the rehearsals of what they're going through right now, because again, it is still a little bit away, and you're not seeing final dress, you're not seeing them in costumes, etc. And that's why one of the reasons I wanted to show some of the Broadway show a little bit later on in our show, to give you an idea about what it's going to become, what what the rehearsal look is going to become, and what eventually you'll see on stage at JPAC. So let's go ahead and give a little look right now to this short video clip from JPAS. Get in, get out, make sure you buy tickets. That's the way. It's a good short clip.
A great clip. Close up on the feet, those dancing feet. Never stop in this show.
Yeah. Well, again, for those of you who were not familiar with seeing this before, it has been seen on PBS. They did tape it.
That's right.
Which is unusual. Yeah. For a few of the shows on Broadway, they will actually go in there and film and then rebroadcast later. So it was definitely shown on PBS. If you thought you maybe saw it a few years ago, you were correct. You did see it. And then again, it was on Broadway. So it has not been performed here locally, because Leslie and I were going through this before. It has not been performed. This is the first time that a local production of this particular show is being seen. So those of you who think you've seen it before,
yeah, and it's not.
Broadway, you have not.
People seem to think, well, it's just another version of White Christmas, the musical, and it's quite different. It's not like that at all. Even you have two leading couples, but they're not. It's not like White Christmas.
Yeah, and there are one or two Christmas songs, but there's also a July 4th song. There's it's every holiday, Thanksgiving,
every holiday.
And you know what? It's just, I mean, like similar to White Christmas, all the music is spectacular because it's all Irving Berlin. So I think people will find themselves humming along. Blue skies, White Christmas. It's a lovely day today. There's so many just awesome, songs.
It's like 21 songs or so in this thing.
Oh my goodness, there's a lot of numbers. Yeah,
and you all remember that famous quote that Jerome Kern, the famous songwriter, said about Irving Berlin. He said, "Irving Berlin has no place in American music. He is American music."
American.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
he is.
So,
couple of his songs. I wasn't familiar really with "Song of Freedom" and "Firecrackers." I had seen the big, in the original film, Fred Astaire. You might remember the Fred Astaire just from seeing it in clips and stuff. But like where he's lighting the firecrackers and throwing them down, tap dancing around the firecrackers. I do remember that. But the song was not a familiar song to me. A lot of the other ones were Easter Parade, Cheek to Cheek, Stepping Out with Maybe, Shaking the Blues Away.
Shaking the Blues Away. That's such a fantastic number.
It's the showstopper.
And that's the one you were talking about with the skipping rope and they're on like you'll see a couple little bits of that I've got from the
that one in particular, because the show is set in the late 40s, 48, 49. So we're coming out of the war. And so the whole show has this feel of exuberance and new beginnings and and hope and that number I think articulates it better than any others. It's time to shake the blues away and have some fun, and that's the whole show feels that way.
Now in my memory, the film Holiday Inn predated the actual chain of hotels, right? Isn't that correct?
That's where they got the original idea for the chain of hotels.
I didn't know that.
And of course, I like to joke, I think we're doing one student matinee, and I refer to that as Holiday Inn Express.
Very good.
It's going to be cut down.
Yes, I can understand, and they appreciate you cutting it, but giving you the meat and the potatoes, not necessarily.
The kids can only get an hour off for a field trip.
Yeah,
so we have to
music. All of my songs were cut because they're like, "Oh, just get to the kids." I was like, "What?" Oh, okay.
Edelweiss, who needs that? Sorry about that.
Who cares about those Nazis in the war?
Yeah,
but Don't Let Me is going to stay in. I guarantee you that. Right. So, again, tell me a little bit, Leslie, about the other casting choices. I'm sorry that not everybody could be with us tonight, but can you tell me a little bit more about some of your other cast members?
Yes. Ted's the role of Ted Hanover, who is Rich Arnold's character, Jim Hardy's partner in crime and show business partner, is played by Alcee Jones, who you might remember playing Uznavi in last month's In the Heights. So he's back, and he's back with a suave haircut and tap shoes and a very sophisticated jacket. Couldn't be more different from Uznavi.
He was very good
in so versatile, and he's put on his tap shoes, and he's a great dancer.
Yeah,
he's wonderful and charming. My two leading ladies are Chloe Vallon. I think she's currently a Victory Bell at the World War II Museum, and Bailey Gabrish plays our other lead. She plays Lila Hanover. Lila Dixon. Excuse me. She's the showgirl of the trio act, who is also engaged to Rich's character at the beginning of the show. Funny side note, she played Liesel when they did Sound of Music 2 years ago, and I forgot about that. So
he's also grown up quite a bit since then.
He's grown up. Everybody's grown up, but we never age, right, Rich?
Right.
Two of us.
Exactly the same.
Well,
I know my 17-year-old is catching up to me, right?
It seems to me in the movie Holiday Inn, Fred Astaire sort of dances away with Marjorie Reynolds, right? In the film that Bing Crosby's playing "Be Careful with My Heart," and he's playing at the piano, and all of a sudden Fred Astaire comes behind and starts dancing, and the next thing you know is they're really doing a routine together, unbeknownst to Bing Crosby, who's singing his heart out about how much he loves her. And then, of course, when he finally realizes, it's like, Whoops, sorry.
Right. We have, and of course, we have the brilliant Tracy Collins, who is playing the fix-it, like the handy person, the handy gal of the farm, and she comes in and aids and plays Cupid too.
She would be like the Nancy Walker roles, right? And that's
Kind of
kind of what
so.
she's,
It's kind of like
she's
Nancy
like
Walker role,
she's the one who
so
comes in and
wonderful.
she's like the lady who's everybody's friend, and
Yeah.
and you know, that, and Rich said that already, that she's basically his friend, but she's not really on the make for any of the guys necessarily. You know, she's sort of a self-established you know, handy
Independent woman.
person. Yeah.
Right.
And she basically takes care of his affairs, correct? I mean, she's
Pretty
sort of
much.
in charge of
Yeah.
making sure that
She
things
teaches him
run.
how to farm. She takes care of the house. She does it all. Yeah. He doesn't know how to do anything.
She's my best bud in the play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now
And
you
then,
all started on
his
the rehearsals
manager-
when? How long ago? When did you all start?
Rehearsing about 3 weeks ago, but with people have had conflicts, and we've taken some days off for Halloween and this and that. So it just feels like we're really just getting cooking right now. And you know, with that ensemble, every night they're in rehearsal every single night, and I try to take the actors and book scenes in a different location, and I'm doing that while Kenny's working in the main room with the dancers. So we're trying to all put it together. This next week is all putting it all together.
When is the Sitzprobe?
Sitzprobe's is Saturday after Thanksgiving.
Whoa.
We'll have a full orchestra. The orchestrations to this show, we have, you know, the great Michael Paternostra as our music director. Michael's a 9-time Broadway veteran as an actor as well, but he's also a brilliant musician and a musical director. And I think the orchestra is 27 pieces. You know, it's every piece. So it's going to blow the roof off. These arrangements are just so much fun.
Well, you know, that it's one of the things that has endeared me to JPAS. Dennis Asaf being the maestro, the conductor that he is, he does not spare any expense in terms of delivering a musical performance from his orchestra. And again, it's costly. We all know that a lot of the theaters locally, you know, have tried to have some shows with big orchestras, but have not been able to. And again, I don't hold people's budgets, you know, accountable as far as it goes, where they do what they can. But the JPS has not been hampered in any way in doing what they do, which is always to put out a quality product with a big orchestra, and as much as needs to be done. This is the kind of musical, though, that requires that kind of orchestration.
Yeah,
you need the strings. You need
the
you know,
size of this. The size of this orchestra is actually probably larger than a lot of Broadway pits.
Yes, I was going to say that too.
Yeah. And I don't think that many people have seen a show like this in many years because of COVID, you know, so it's the perfect musical. Talking about shaking your blues away, you know, people have been kind of in the dark ages, not having this kind of theater, this, you know, and this show is going to fill that space. It's just, it's so full and it's vibrant and it feels alive. And I think the audience is going to leave the theater humming the tunes and, you know, really grateful they came.
I mean, we
leave rehearsal great tunes. I mean, Irving Berlin is a great, you know, song technician. You know, he always could say a lot of emotion, and I think part of the little clip that I've got that I pulled off from the Broadway to sort of, you know, give us a little bit of a respite to let other people see the fleshed out, you know, production of what it was like on Broadway at Studio 54, is that he really does capture all of these emotional values that we have in falling in love and things of that sort in just such a short number of notes and words. And you know, Rogers needed, you know, a Hammerstein or perhaps a Lorenz Hart to deliver the message, you know, but it was Irving Berlin who did it all. He
words
did
and music.
Words and music. So that's not easy to do. Even the great people like Elton John and Andrew Lloyd Webber, you know, are hampered by the fact that they cannot write the lyrics.
Yeah.
You know, and they don't try to. They occasionally will go down that Richard Rogers occasionally did after Hammerstein died. You know, he did do some interesting work, but I think most people will still admit that No Strings was not as good as Sound of Music and South Pacific and Carousel and all the other big songs like Oklahoma, all the big shows that he had. Let's go ahead and just take a little quick break, and I wanted to essentially pull out this clip to show people, because Rich, you are playing the part that Bryce Pinkham did on Broadway, and I don't know if you're familiar with Bryce. Have you seen much of his work. Because I was very lucky. The night before they closed in Atlanta this summer, I got to see Bryce take part in what would essentially be the Danny Aykroyd role from Trading Places.
Wow.
A brand new musical that's being done, and it should be going to Broadway, I hope, in another year or so. But I think they're being cautious and trying to produce it. But it was almost all fleshed out. Mark Kudish was in this production as well, and so but again, Bryce Pinkham. Many people will remember him as the person who played Monty. Oh, what was his last name? I'm trying to remember. From Gentleman's Guide to Love and Murder. Monty Navarro. Now I can remember musically. Monty Navarro. Anyway, he did that, and he also did this role. And again, like I said, Trading Places. So I want everybody to kind of pay close attention. Just imagine Rich Arnold doing the part that you see Bryce Pinkham doing in this particular segment. So let me see if we can get this going. All right, here we go. One more time, and go.
Stepping out with my baby, can't go wrong 'cause I'm in right. Ask me when will the day be? The big day may be tonight.
What makes Irving Berlin's music so enduring? What makes one writer stand out among the rest? If I knew, I'd be doing the same thing he was doing.
Irving Berlin just had a way of writing the most hummable melodies. It spoke to everybody.
He speaks from the heart. There's nobody who can write a lyric that is so effortlessly attached to a piece of music that doesn't cut right to our core.
1, 2.
Just after hearing them once, it's just instantly singable. There's nothing in the way. It's just pure emotion, pure melody.
When you think of Irving Berlin, not only do you think just traditional American musical theater, but there are songs that Irving Berlin wrote that everybody knows that they might not even realize it's Irving Berlin.
We're having a heat wave, a tropical heat wave. Temperatures rising, it isn't surprising, she certainly can. Hey. Irving Berlin's music is so powerful because he's honest. He's honest with a wink. And no matter where you come from, what your history is, you can relate to it. And you get the sense of humor that a lot of it's written with. And he doesn't get too wordy. It's just simple and clear and precise.
What's interesting about Irving Berlin's music is that it covers so many styles and they adapt themselves very well to dancing.
Let's say it with firecrackers and banners held high.
Because he and Fred Astaire were very close friends. And Fred Astaire did so many of his songs in films.
Irving Berlin's music hits people of all generations. Even my children who saw it and don't know the music just loved it. It's fun. It's classic. I don't know, it makes you feel good.
His work is so nicely represented by holiday inns. We have songs for Thanksgiving and for Christmas and for New Year's and for Valentine's Day and for Easter.
And I think for that reason, the show feels very balanced and very much like it captures an entire year in a single show, which leaves you feeling happy to be alive, which is what we always wanted you to feel when you left Holiday Inn.
It's Irving Berlin, so there's no clunkers. They're all beautiful. And listening to Bryce sing is amazing. He's got such a cool, old, tiny voice.
Remember, it's my heart, the heart with which so willingly I part.
One of my favorite things is sort of hearing that din of a hum in the audience as certain songs come in and you hear that people are recognizing these songs. For instance, when we do White Christmas in the show, people just seem to bask in the glow of that great song.
I'm dreaming of a white Christmas. With every Christmas card I write.
These songs, people respond to them because they know them immediately. They're a part of the soundtracks of our lives. And you get, 4 bars into these songs and the audience immediately, it's like, oh my God, it's Easter Parade. There's a knee jerk to this kind of material.
Berlin songs endure and will continue to endure because they tell a truth we all want to hear. They don't tell us things that divide us. They tell us things that hold us together.
Irving Berlin is the father of the Great American Songbook, really. With respect to my co-stars, he's the real star of this show.
I think Irving Berlin will continue to be one of the greatest songwriters that we have ever had, in the vein of Richard Rodgers and Oscar Hammerstein or Lerner and Lowe. These are people who wrote about the human condition. And at the end of the day, that's what music speaks to at all times. And so we can always recognize something within our core or something within our soul that we just tap into, and it just strikes the right chord, pun intended.
Now, if that doesn't make you want to go out and see that show, I don't know what will.
That's great. Let's do that show.
Now 6.
So yeah, but it's amazing. It really does speak to the heart of what this show is all about, which is really a basic group of people who are trying to eke out a happy time for themselves. And again, this movie was done in 1942, right when we were entering the conflict in Europe and in the Pacific, etc.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that people needed to be entertained. They needed what this movie gives them, which is sort of a look at a simple life and something that's not borne down by all these other issues of war and fascism, which came to bear at that time. I have to ask too, Leslie, you've got this opportunity to do this now. They're going to be doing for 2 weekends only, and you're going to be doing some shows for some of the kids. You mentioned that. So in terms of the numbers of seats in the house, it's only about 1,000, right? That's it's a little smaller than the East Jefferson Auditorium, right? It's about 1,000 seats.
Yeah, I think it's around 1,000.
So people can go online and get tickets, etc. Now, what about group sales? Have you all thought about maybe, because this is a perfect opportunity for church groups?
Oh,
perfect opportunity. I mean, there's nothing that can go south in this show in terms of I can't bring my mother to come see this show.
No, this is a show.
This is not Six. This is not.
Yes.
Some of the things
From
that are a little bit racing.
6 to 66 and 96 and all in between. I think on the webpage, on the JPAS webpage, there's group sales, inquiry available for sure. For sure. Yeah.
I think this is the type of show. Not only can you bring mother, you can bring grandmother, and you can bring the kids, and they're all going to be thoroughly entertained by it. So, again, Rich, I don't know whether or not you're daunted now by seeing Rice Pinkham and all that he does, but I'm sure you're going to be up to the challenge. And
it's just as good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got to. Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, I just seeing that just inspires me and wants me to, do it even more, because it really is a lot of fun. I do want to correct myself. I said, it was done. I said it was set after the war. It was before the war, but it was after the Depression, right?
Yes.
It was set in a time where it was shaking all the blues away of the 30s. But yeah.
But our version, our stage version, I think very consciously makes the shift from 1942. The movie was 1942, but the stage version is 1946.
Oh, is it? Okay.
So it's
all right.
Immediately post-war. So
okay, all right. So I was right.
Yeah,
then. So either way,
I picture you and Ted and Lila as being like a USO act.
Either way, it
now
speaks to
war's
the
over,
need.
now you're going around trying to get to Hollywood.
Yeah,
from
it speaks to the need to feed our soul, right? And just because sometimes life can get too heavy. And so it doesn't matter. There's heavy things that occurred in the 30s and 40s and 50s. But no matter what, you need the ability to experience things together as a community, have a communal experience of joy and release and appreciation for the arts. And that's what it celebrates.
Right.
Interestingly enough, we heard a little bit of the strains of Easter Parade. Irving Berlin wrote Easter Parade when he was a very young man. I think he was maybe 19 or so. And he actually outlived the copyright on Easter Parade. He lived to be over 100. And it went out of copyright. It was actually for about 10 years or so of his life towards the end there. It was now in public domain.
Wow.
And they changed that around. So now that a lot of the songs that he was responsible for later, they sort of wrote it in such a way that, like Richard Rodgers and Oscar Hammerstein, now it's 75 years after the death of the last partner.
Right.
So that gives you a little bit additional protection. But imagine you're writing a song and now it's in public domain because you lived too long. Of course, I don't think he was complaining that he was living too long. So I don't know if you have a favorite, but is there a particular number that you like to do, that's gets you in the heart, so to speak, or one that?
I'm a fan of Blue Skies, obviously, but I love
that's the opening
context
though. Right.
That the Blue Skies is when he decides to go to the farm. So it's this elaborate scene change. We go from New York and then all of a sudden we're outside the farmhouse where his buddies come and help him move in, and boxes and flying and furniture is going. And then the next moment he's inside the farmhouse. So it goes, it's so exciting and exuberant. And on the flip side of that, I love Nothing More to Say. The Linda's character, the character Linda's song, it's just such a beautiful, it's that it got the classic chord changes of that and Be Careful Is My Heart are like the most beautiful ballads that are just hopeful at the same time that they break your heart. There's also some hope there. It's just so.
I would say I've got lots of favorites, but I think my favorites probably Be Careful It's My Heart, because it expresses his vulnerability. And we all know that, we're all scared to be hurt, but if you're really going to experience reward, you've got to put yourself out there. And the song really encapsulates that.
I agree.
And you mentioned that Chloe's song. Chloe really does have a just beautiful, rich tone to her voice.
She understands the style just so perfectly. She came
dripping with the character and
sang for us, and
it's wonderful. It's a great cast.
So beautiful.
Who's responsible for the costumes?
They're actually a rental package that are coming from another theater upstate that are very wonderful. They are beautiful. I'm super excited about them.
And what about the set design? Who's doing that?
Set design's Eric Porter, who is the resident tech director. And he's got some great ideas and great things coming, and it's just going to be snazzy and polished, and it's with a sense of humor too. I think a lot of the sets have a sense of humor about them, which I love.
And tell me a little bit more about Kenny. I know he's had some other outside duties recently in Mardi Gras. He's taken on new responsibilities too. So how is he working in terms of I wish he were on the call today with us, but if
he's busy.
He's a very busy guy. But has he been working? I think you'd said this. He works with the dancers separate before they come in, and what do they use for music then? I mean, in terms of, I'm just wondering how they prepare the actors for the dance sequences, and in terms of without an orchestra.
I think all the rehearsing for Holiday Inn happens during Holiday Inn rehearsal. So when I say he works with the dancers before, he's their teacher. So he's their ballet teacher, working with them on ballet technique and things like that. Because he has this ballet, it's called Jefferson Ballet Theater, right? And it's a school. It's a ballet school where he teaches. And he's also doing his Nutcracker. That'll be at JPEZ the week after we close, I think the following weekend. And some of the cast members are also in Nutcracker. So and his wife, Kimberly, is running the Nutcracker rehearsals. So literally some of our dancers, they're with us from 6 to 7:30. Then they go to Nutcracker rehearsal and they come back to us at 9 o'clock. They show up again. So they're doing two at once. So yeah, it's not for the weary, all these ballet.
And again, this opens, is it December the 2nd?
Mm-hmm.
December the 2nd that opens, but 2 weekends only. So we want everybody to know. Yeah, this is really an
But
opportunity.
it's like a perfect, it's just the perfect thing to get you in that holiday frame of mind. And it's not a Christmas show per se. There is like one, of course, we sing White Christmas, and there's a scene or two that takes place around the holidays. But it's just that fun, fresh, joyous show that'll put you in a happy mood, for the holidays.
And again, Leslie, you've assembled your cast. They're in the process now, and then it opens on December the 2nd, and 2 weeks later it closes. It's kind of like a child that you bear and you bring forth and you send them out into the world, and then they have to do something on their own. They're gone. You have to get on to the next one. And so I'm gonna ask both of you, what else? I know Rich already mentioned about the Big Easy Boys. What after down the road? What after this? What are you gearing towards? Anything for Christmas again? I know Mandatory Merriment is not necessarily on the horizon this year.
I know, right? I missed that. I'd love to find a way to bring that back. Another.
If there's anybody who can do that, anybody who will make it happen, I'm sure it's going to be you.
I'll find a place. I'll find a place for that. That's my child. That's my little baby. I love that show so much.
And of course, Ian just got married.
Just got married.
So I don't know whether or not it's going to affect his character or not, but we'll see.
No, I think the weekend after we close, it's not set yet, but I think I'm going to be performing in Gretna, a cabaret show. So when I get the exact details, I'll let you know.
So, Rich, I did announce when she first started her cabaret act years ago that she was the queen of New Orleans cabaret. And she took that to heart. But
I never let my kids forget it.
No. I mean,
the dishes. I said the queen tells you.
Yes, that's right.
Clean the kitchen.
But
and now she's the it director in New Orleans. It's been fun getting to work with her as a director, because we did Merrily We Roll Along together at Le Petit.
Yes, I do remember.
No, I'll never stop being an actor. This is a note to all the other directors in town, all the theater companies in town. I haven't given up performing.
Right, that's how you keep it fresh, right?
So. But it's great to work with a director who's not only a friend but also an actor, and so she knows, like, she just gets it, right? So she knows that, okay, it takes a little while to find this or that. It's going to get there, and it's just a lot of fun to work with a director who's also an actor.
Oh,
and again, we're getting good support from JPAS with Dennis.
Yeah,
and all of the people. You mentioned
my dogs are not cooperating. Sorry, they're just.
What's your dog's name?
Dexter and Seeley, and they are, I don't know if you can see them, but anyway, they are playing tug of war under my feet, and it's hard to concentrate.
Alan, I'm also anxiously awaiting, I've got a recurring role on television, so I hope everyone tunes into the Mayfair Witches on AMC channel. I'm in 4 episodes out of 8, so I come in mid-season to the end, but I'm one of the Mayfair Witches, which is quite fun. That's what I was doing all summer.
Yeah, I remember hearing about some of the roles that you had, and unfortunately, not all of them made the cut. Cut.
Oh, the movie I did with Tom Hanks and Clint.
You were his mother, weren't you?
I played Tom Hanks's mother in a flashback in Sully. Yeah,
in Sully Sullenberg, and unfortunately, and you don't find out until the very last, right? Whether or not you made the cut or not.
I did get a note. I got a note from Paramount about a week before it was opening that I didn't make it, and they apologized, and it wasn't personal. It's never personal, of course.
No, but
time-wise.
Now, in a case like that, you still get paid while you're working, but I imagine that if you did make the final cut, that there'd be residuals and things of that sort that'd be involved.
Right. If your name is in the credits, you get the residuals. So I did a film called Green Book.
I remember that. Yes.
Yeah, and everyone look, my name is in the credits, but my scene didn't make it in the film.
Ooh,
but I'm in the credits. So
but you're in the credits, so you get a little something.
Yeah, I credit my director with that. He was a great guy.
That's very nice. Rich, you been doing any film at all?
No, I've never done film. My heart's on the stage, but maybe at some point. I know that the film industry is really back and booming in New Orleans. So
it's exciting.
And the cruise industry, since you mentioned, being on cruise ships, they took a pretty hard hit because of pandemics, worldwide. Brutal. So my question for you is how have they come back, and will you maybe see something down the future for one of your companies that you might be doing.
That's the goal. That's the goal. I've done a million of the cruise ships as a guest performer when I lived in New York, and there's so many that leave, out of New Orleans, and I know that our show would be a great hit with them, but I want to wait to market the perfect offering for them. So I think there's having it be New Orleans entertainment specific to New Orleans is what makes us unique. So that's what I want to focus on. So in order to get on these ships, you normally have to attend a showcase in Florida. And so it's kind of hard to crack in, but I'm picking and choosing my moment to do that. But I think that's the plan for us, to be able to do these cruises that make New Orleans one of their stops, and they would do one leg from New Orleans to maybe the Caribbean. They can fly us back.
Mm-hmm.
Did you start off at one point doing something similar to the Four Seasons? Didn't you do some work with that?
Yes,
and that gave you the idea once you
was kind of a rip-off Jersey Boys quartet. That we performed in Royal Caribbean and Norwegian, a whole bunch of them, and then that's what gave me the idea. So then we added Beach Boys, and then we added all the 50s, 60s, Drifters, Beatles, Temptations, Four Tops, and now I'm trying to focus on New Orleans music. So it's a lot of fun.
I think if you're doing one out of New Orleans' port, that's great. But some of the other songs, I mean, there's so many great, beautiful love songs and stuff. I mean, I could imagine you even doing something with some soul stylings, etc.
Well, we have about 5 hours of music already, but every time we perform, we just did a gig, the festival last weekend. People go, oh, why aren't you doing this? You got to do this. It's like, okay,
always
I can
another
only arrange
song,
so
right?
much.
Yeah.
Well,
there's no shortage of material, just like Irving Berlin. There's no shortage of material.
Right.
So again, just to recap, everybody, Leslie is the director. Rich is the star. We're talking about Irving Berlin's Holiday Inn, playing starting December the 2nd and playing for 2 weekends. And again, those of you who need to find out more about getting information for getting tickets, that's where you need to go, jpas.org. If you go there, you can get your tickets. And we were talking about possibly having school sessions, et cetera, for the show. Is that already set in stone? Or if somebody says right now, gee, my students might like to come to this, how do they set that up? Or do you know? Is that
They should just reach out to probably either Josh at jpas.org or Amy at jpas.org if they have school groups. I know several are coming in already on the 8th, but there's a possibility of doing another one if they sell out, adding an additional one.
And you would do multiple schools, right? It wouldn't just be one school. It would be
no. Bus loads come in.
Yeah,
and
right. So 10 or 12, maybe as many as 10 or 12 schools or whatever they can bring
depending
in.
on how many kids.
Yeah. And again, you said those are shortened.
They shortened down to probably one act. We'll shorten it down to like an hour and 15, hour 20 minutes. So
do the kids get it, or are the kids more interested in the Beyonce, like the Sixth revivals and Hamilton and stuff with hip hop and things of that sort now, or do you think something like this would resonate with them?
I think it's just so entertaining that not many kids have seen tap dancing live, or a great group of great production numbers like that it's so entertaining. I just remember as a kid, the first time my dad took me to see a re-release of Singing in the Rain, and that was my first exposure to it, and I was just agog, and I think it's the same with kids today. I mean, they like what they like, but it's just eye-opening to see something different, and it's fast and it's jazzy and it's colorful and it's happy and it's sassy, and what's not to like,
Yeah, this music is so universal, but also like Leslie said, it's fast-paced and there's so much to look at, and there's jump rope, but it's just very entertaining. And
Tracy Collins, you can't go wrong. Collins. Well, we might just go ahead and close out at that
Do
point.
You have the ad promo.
You know what? You're probably right. I'm being negligent.
Let's see that, because
let's take a look.
First pickup. Yeah, here are my guys. Here are my guys in costume. They look great. Yeah.
So there you go.
Rich and Alcy, fantastic.
And again, jpas.org. If you didn't catch it earlier, that's where you need to go to make sure you can get all the tickets. And again, Rich, I want to thank you for being with us today. Again, my thanks to Leslie as well. I mean, y'all make my night by being with me. And again, we urge everybody who has yet to find out more about this to go to jps.org and learn more if you need to go to any more information. And again, I want to thank you guys for being here and making this happen. Joshua and all the people, Amy, who work behind the scenes, and of course the maestro himself, Dennis, for getting this together. And I think if this is any indication, now that JPAS is running the show over at JPAC, for a couple of years back now, they were not in charge of managing the theater. But I think you're going to see more and more things happening there now that they're in charge. Perhaps even some outside shows that'll come in as a result. So we'll look forward to seeing that. And again, I want to thank you all for being here. You just stick around a little bit while I say goodnight to everybody. And again, thank you, Rich. Thank you, Leslie. Again, those of you who have been with me through the whole show, thank you for sticking in. We appreciate it. This is Alan Mason and NOLA Theatre Talk. And again, we broadcast to the NOLA Theatre Folk Facebook group, the theatercriticism.com Facebook page, and also on YouTube. And all of these shows are archived on YouTube. So if you miss it, you can go back and go check any of them out. Again, it's been my pleasure to talk about Irving Berlin's Holiday Inn tonight. Not quite sure what we're going to have next Monday night, but we will have some kind of a show, and it's going to be leading up to Thanksgiving. I will tell you that those of you who have not yet registered, I suggest you get to bsa-selacouncil.org to register for the 10 Commandments hike that I'll be leading on November the 25th, that Friday. It's only $10 right now. It'll go up to $12 on the 16th, but it goes rain or come shine. And I hope that some people will join me as we go to 10 different houses of worship and learn about the 10 Commandments. Girls, boys, everybody's open to attend. Doesn't really matter where you are in life. We're glad to have you. And again, it's a very God-centric event that it reinforces the values of spirituality and also acceptance and tolerance in this crazy world that we have out there. So take care of yourselves. And as always, I will see you at the theater.